How could you call the police? My voice cracks. I reach out, but he jerks away. He doesn't even flinch, just stares at me like I'm something so much worse than anything we've shared before. How could I not? He spits out, eyes burning into mine. Liz, Jesus Christ. But let's start from the beginning, right after your subscription to this channel. I wake up to the sun streaming through our kitchen window, its warm glow caressing my face. The smell of coffee and pancake batter fills the air as I hum a cheerful tune, my hands working swiftly to flip the golden discs on the griddle. I can feel Jake's eyes on me from the table, his gaze a mix of amusement and affection. You're like a tornado in a china shop, Liz, he teases, taking a sip of his coffee. I turn to him with a grin, my eyes sparkling. And you love every minute of it, don't you? He chuckles, shaking his head. Can't argue with that. I plate up the pancakes and slide them across the table to him, but my mind is already racing ahead. The routine of making breakfast, as comforting as it is, feels like a cage. I need something more, something to quell the growing restlessness inside me. After breakfast, I move through the house, dusting and tidying. It's mindless work, leaving my thoughts free to wander. In our bedroom, I pause at the corner where we keep our discreet wooden box. My fingers trace the intricate carvings on its surface before I open it, revealing our collection of toys. The array of silicone, metal, and leather is a vibrant tapestry of possibilities. Each piece holds memories of nights filled with passion and exploration. I run my fingers over them, sighing softly. Despite the variety, I feel a growing ache for something more, something that will push me to my limits and beyond. I close the box and continue with my day, trying to shake off the feeling of dissatisfaction. Yoga class helps a little, my body stretching and bending with fluid grace. The physical exertion momentarily quiets the restless thoughts in my head. Later, I meet up with some friends at our favorite cafe. The air is filled with the rich aroma of coffee and the sound of laughter. I join in, sharing stories and jokes, but there's a part of me that feels disconnected. Like I'm watching myself from a distance, going through the motions of a life that suddenly feels too small. At the grocery store, I fill my cart with organic produce and gourmet treats. Jake and I love cooking together, experimenting with new recipes. But even as I browse the aisles, picking out ingredients for our next culinary adventure, I can't shake the feeling that something's missing. The void inside me grows larger with each passing hour. It's a hunger for extremes that my daily routine can't seem to fill. I crave something more, something taboo and exhilarating that will make me feel truly alive. By the time Jake gets home from work, I'm standing at our bedroom window, lost in thought. I barely notice him until his arms wrap around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder. "What's going on in that head of yours, Liz?" he asks, his voice gentle and concerned. I hesitate, not sure how to put my feelings into words. Just thinking, I finally say. "About what?" he prompts, his breath warm on my neck. I sigh, leaning back into his solid presence. It's comforting, but it also highlights the restlessness I've been feeling all day. "About spicing things up," I admit, my voice barely above a whisper. Jake chuckles, his chest rumbling against my back. "Is that so?" he says, a hint of playfulness in his tone. But when I turn to look at him, I can see a flicker of concern in his eyes. "What did you have in mind?" I bite my lip, suddenly unsure. How do I explain the depth of what I'm feeling? The need for something more extreme, more dangerous? "I don't know," I say finally. Just something different. Something that pushes our boundaries. Jake's arms tighten around me slightly. All right, he says, his voice careful. Let's do it. Whatever you want to try, I'm game. I turn in his arms, searching his face. Really? You mean that? He nods, a small smile playing on his lips. Of course. You know I'm always up for an adventure with you. I feel a surge of excitement, mixed with a touch of apprehension. This is what I wanted, isn't it? A chance to explore, to push our limits. But as I look into Jake's eyes, I can't help but wonder if he truly understands what I'm asking for. If he's really prepared for how far I might want to go. I flop onto our worn-out couch, my fingers drumming a restless rhythm on my knee. Jake's out in the garage, tinkering with God knows what, and I edge my phone closer to my ear as I talk to Mom. You sound restless, sweetheart. I am, Mom. I run a hand through my hair, feeling the frustration tighten in my chest. I need something more, you know? Something extreme. Mom hums thoughtfully, her lips probably curling into that knowing smile she wears when she's about to say something wild. I might know just the thing. Her voice dips to a conspiratorial whisper, and I lean in, intrigue already sparking in my chest. What do you have in mind? I ask, my curiosity piqued. The best ride of your life isn't a man, sweetheart. It's a donkey, she says, her tone laden with mischievous excitement. My breath catches. A donkey? I echo, my mind tripping over the word. It's so absurd, so far-fetched, but also ridiculously enticing. Mom laughs, a low, sultry sound that sends a shivery thrill down my spine. Trust me, Lisa. It's an experience you won't forget. I swallow hard, my heart pounding in my chest. I should be horrified, appalled. But the thrill, the forbidden excitement, it's like a drug, and right now I'm an addict. All right, I say, my voice barely more than a whisper. I'll think about it. I hang up, standing abruptly, the room feeling too small, too suffocating. I need air. I need space. I pace the length of our bedroom, my mind whirling like a hurricane. Glancing at the toy chest, I then turn to look at Jake, blissfully unaware, sleeping peacefully, his chest rising and falling with each breath. This need in me, it's not something a toy can satisfy. Nibbling my lip, I debate with myself, knowing exactly how taboo, how completely wrong the idea is. And yet the thrill is intoxicating. Taking a deep breath, I steel my resolve. I'm going to visit Martha's farm. I've made up my mind, and there's no turning back. The drive to Martha's farm felt longer this time, each mile stretching out like an elastic band of anticipation. With each twist and turn of the rural road, my heart drummed louder in my chest, a steady beat compelling me toward that looming boundary I was about to cross. The tension grew as the familiar white farmhouse came into view, its red barn and lush pastures as scenic as they had always been, but now carrying a different weight. I parked the car a little way off, near the old oak tree where I used to play as a kid. The morning sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled light on the ground, but I was too wired to appreciate the nostalgia. Every step toward the stable felt heavier, my stomach knotting with anxiety and something else. Thrill, maybe. Desire? I couldn't tell. As I neared the stable, the earthy smell of hay mixed with the musky scent of animals hit me. It usually felt comforting, but not today. Today, it nearly made my head spin. Standing in front of the stable door, I hesitated, feeling the rough wood beneath my fingertips. I took a deep breath, willing myself to steady. Unlocking the door, I slipped inside. The cool, dim interior, a stark contrast to the bright morning. Diego stood there in his stall, his large brown eyes locking onto me as if he sensed my presence immediately. His ears twitched, and he gave a soft nicker. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I moved closer, my footsteps crunching on the straw-covered floor, and reached out a tentative hand. His coat was softer than I remembered, a calming sensation amid the storm of thoughts swirling in my mind. "Hey, Diego," I murmured, barely audible, as if speaking any louder would shatter the fragile moment. He sniffed my hand, a gentle exhale that tickled my palm. His tail swished, a slow, lazy motion that belied the rapid beat of my own heartbeat. I took another step, my body trembling with anticipation. The air felt thick, charged, and every sound seemed amplified. The rustle of hay, Diego's soft breaths, it all filled the quiet stable, an orchestra of tension. My fingers fumbled with the buttons on my blouse, shaking as they worked their way down. Each button, undone, felt like a small step closer to the point of no return. Diego's curious eyes tracked my movements, and I felt my breath catch in my throat. The silence grew, pressing in on me until all I could hear was the wild drumming of my heart. As my blouse slid off, the cool air brushed against my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. I had crossed the line already in my mind, but standing here, I felt the weight of it like never before. Stepping closer, I reached out and touched Diego's side, feeling the warmth of his body beneath my hand. My breath came in quick gasps now, the reality of what I was doing hitting me in waves. I let out a shaky breath, feeling the fire igniting inside me, a response to the pure, unfiltered taboo. Diego's tail swished again, brushing against my leg, and my pulse quickened. The stable seemed to close in around us, the earthy smells and rustling of hay intensifying the strange intimacy of the moment. I leaned in, pressing my body against his, the rough texture of his coat contrasting with the softness of my skin. In the midst of it all, my mind registered how far I had gone. Yet there was no going back. My body moved on its own, driven by the rush of adrenaline and forbidden thrill. The stable, with its cozy dim light and smell of earth, now became the stage for this wild, unrestrained dance. Lying in the hay afterward, a grin spread across my face. It wasn't just satisfaction, it was an electrifying sense of being alive. Every nerve tingled, every thought was crystal clear. I'd never felt this way before. Not with Jake. Not ever. Our marriage felt like a distant, faded photograph compared to this vivid, intoxicating high. I pulled my clothes back on, feeling the rough hay beneath me, every movement heightening the lingering sensation. I left the stable, locking the door behind me, my steps light and buoyant. Each beat of my heart was a reminder of the rush, the thrill that now pulsed through me like a second life. Back in the car, I didn't drive off immediately. I sat there, feeling my heart slow down, the adrenaline ebbing away, but leaving a craving, a hunger for more. My hands gripped the steering wheel, white-knuckled, as my mind circled back to that dizzying high. The farm was behind me now as I drove away, but the memory of what had happened lingered, a secret thrill that made the mundane world outside seem duller, paler. I didn't know what this meant for me and Jake, but right now all I could think about was when I could come back. And as the road stretched out before me, it felt like the beginning of something both terrifying and exhilarating. A few weeks later, I'm in the kitchen, half listening to Jake talk about something from work, Some bug in their software that took hours to track down. Normally, I'd be asking questions, feigning interest, nodding along. But today, I've got that itch under my skin again. The urge to get back to the farm. To Diego. I swear, it's like they don't even test their code, Jake says, running a hand through his hair, looking exasperated. I push the eggs around the pan, my mind already drifting. I can feel my heart speeding up, my skin getting warm, just thinking about it. You've been going to your mom's place a lot lately. I glance over at him, shrug. His eyes are steady, scanning my face, but I can tell he's suspicious. That eyebrow arching slightly. Jake's tell when something's bugging him, but he's not sure how to bring it up yet. Yeah, Martha's... she's been struggling with the farm. I'm just helping her out. It's a lot for one person, especially her age. It's funny, though. He cocks his head, lips curving into that half smirk he gets when he's testing me. Maybe I've been a bit careless. You didn't seem so keen on helping her out before. He's right, of course. I hated spending long periods at the farm. It was always too quiet, smelled like horses and hay. But now, well, everything's changed. It's different now, I guess. I manage a laugh, stirring the eggs faster than needed. It feels good to be out there. Calming, even. Plus, she needs me. Jake leans back against the counter, his eyes narrowing, studying me. He's no idiot. Hell, if I were him, I'd probably be suspicious as hell. You're glowing, Liz. Whatever this helping thing is, it agrees with you. I flash him a smile, hoping it's convincing. You think? Yeah. His tone is light, but there's something dark lurking beneath. Like he's laughing, but not finding it all that funny. His laugh escapes, though, tight and forced. Just don't work too hard. Weird for me to complain about it. But you're gone a lot lately. I keep grinning, playing it off. Oh, stop. You know how I get when I find a new thing to dive into. Jake pauses, watching me. It's only a second, maybe two, but it feels longer. I can see questions brimming in his blue eyes. But before he can fire one at me, I clear my throat and clap my hands. Well, better get these on plates. We pulled up to Martha's farm around sunset. The sky a swirl of pink and orange. The house buzzed with life, laughter spilling out of open windows, mingling with the scent of barbecue. Jake hopped out of the car, already grinning ear to ear. Smells amazing, he said, taking a deep breath. I bet your mom's been busy on that grill. I forced a smile. My mind wasn't on the food. It hadn't been for a long time. We wandered into the backyard, joining the chatter and clinking of glasses. Martha spotted us, her face lighting up with that mischievous glint I was so familiar with. Hey, you two, she called, holding up a spatula like a scepter. Grab a beer and make yourselves at home. Jake grabbed a beer as suggested and integrated himself into a group near the grill, his laugh already becoming louder, more frequent. He had a way of fitting in everywhere, almost like a chameleon. I watched him for a moment, feeling a pang of something I couldn't quite name. Martha nudged me. You okay, kid? I nodded, my eyes flicking to the stable. Yeah, just... She followed my gaze and smirked. Later, she promised under her breath. Dinner stretched into the night, drinks flowing freely. Jake was in high spirits, a beer always in hand, his laughter echoing through the farm. He stumbled a bit, finally throwing an arm around my shoulder. I'm heading to bed, he slurred, planting a sloppy kiss on my cheek. You coming? In a bit, I replied, my smile tight. Sleep well. He staggered off towards the house, leaving Martha and me alone under the string lights. We exchanged a silent look, that familiar understanding passing between us. Martha's eyes twinkled with a dare, her head nodding towards the stable. Ready? She asked, a wicked grin sliding across her face. My heart pounded as we slipped away from the gathering, the music and laughter fading behind us. The stable loomed ahead, bathed in the soft glow of the moon. Diego, I whispered as we entered, the smell of hay and horses thick in the air. The donkey blinked at us, his large brown eyes curious, his tail swishing lazily. Martha stepped closer, her hand running along Diego's flank. Hey there, handsome, she cooed, her voice taking on a husky edge. We moved in sync, drawn into the moment by an unseen force. A giggle escaped my lips, quickly followed by Martha's chuckle. It felt surreal, almost dreamlike, our clothes falling to the hay-strewn floor. Gasp, laughter, quickened breath. The stable was alive with our energy, the boundaries of propriety shattered in the heat of the moment. Diego stood still, his eyes following our every move as Martha guided him closer. With Diego between us, the thrill spiraled. There was a freedom in it, a break from the mundane shackles of everyday life. I stood there, frozen in shock, as Jake's harsh laughter echoed through the stable. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. The world seemed to slow down around me as I struggled to process what was happening. Well, Liz, you've outdone yourself this time, Jake spat out, his voice dripping with a dark, relentless humor that sent chills down my spine. I glanced at Martha, who looked just as stunned as I felt. We were both still in process. Here we were, caught, of all things, and my husband was recording it on his phone. Jake, I started, my voice barely above a whisper. I can explain. He laughed again, but this time it was hollow and bitter. Explain? Oh, please do. I'm dying to hear how you're going to talk your way out of this one. I scrambled to my feet, fumbling with my clothes as I tried to cover myself. Martha followed suit, her usual composure completely shattered. How long have you known? I asked, unable to meet his eyes. Jake's grip on the phone tightened. Long enough. I had my suspicions when you started coming here so often. But this? He gestured wildly at the scene before him. This is beyond anything I could have imagined. Martha stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Jake, listen. No, you listen. He cut her off, his eyes blazing with fury. You're her mother. You're supposed to protect her, not encourage this. I felt a surge of anger at his words. I'm an adult, Jake. I can make my own decisions. He turned his gaze back to me, and I flinched at the hurt and betrayal I saw there. Decisions? Is that what you call this? Throwing away our marriage for a ducking donkey? The crude language shocked me. Jake rarely swore. It was a testament to how deeply this had affected him. It's not like that, I pleaded, taking a step towards him. I needed something more. Something exciting. Jake's laugh was bitter. And this is what you came up with? Christ, Lisa. If you were bored, you could have said something. We could have worked it out together. Jake, wait. It's not what you think. My voice is desperate, echoing off the stable walls. He whirls around, eyes cold as ice. Not what I think. Liz, I saw it with my own eyes. You and your mom with a donkey. His laughter, it's harsh, slicing through me. Come on, Jake, it's just a bit of fun. You're not supposed to be so uptight. I try to sound sweet, cajoling even, but the words taste bitter. His eyes widen in disbelief, his bark of laughter sharp. Uptight? Liz, you were with a donkey. I think I'm entitled to be a little uptight. Fear grips me as he pulls out his phone, hands shaking, ready to dial. Jake, please, I plead, stepping closer. Don't do this. Think about what you're doing. His thumb hovers over the screen, hesitation flickering. For a moment, I think I might reach him. Jake, it was nothing. Just an experiment, something different. We can move past this. He looks at me, eyes full of hurt and anger. Move past this? How, Liz? You've shattered everything. I don't even know who you are anymore. Jake, I'm still me. It's just... My voice falters, knowing no excuse will suffice. Please, we can fix this. He shakes his head, a cold, humorless smile forming. You were my anchor, Liz. Now you're just... lost. He finally hits call, the dial tone piercing the air. Jake, don't make this worse, I beg, voice cracking. Think about us, about everything we've built. Don't let this tear it apart. He looks away, eyes distant. When he speaks, his voice is a low, broken murmur. It's already torn apart, Liz. You did that. As the line connects and he begins to speak, panic swells inside me. I don't know how to stop him, how to fix this. The weight of my actions presses down, and I realize too late the gravity of my choices. I don't know if I'm trembling from fear or leftover adrenaline. Probably both. Jake's still got that look on his face, eyes cold, mouth tight. He's barely blinking, like he's holding everything back from exploding. The cops step out. They're serious, unsmiling. Jake doesn't waste time. How could you call the police? My voice cracks. I reach out, but he jerks away. He doesn't even flinch, just stares at me like I'm something so much worse than anything we've shared before. How could I not? He spits out, eyes burning into mine. Liz, Jesus Christ. The officers are now standing a few feet away, their boots crunching on gravel. They exchange a glance, not quite sure what's going on yet. That hesitance is the worst part, because I know in a few minutes, all of that's going to change. What seems to be the problem? The taller one asks. He looks from Jake to me, then back again. His partner just crosses his arms, waiting. Jake pulls out his phone. You want to know the problem? This. He thrusts it forward at them. They eye each other again. One of the officers takes the phone, and I watch the way their face shifts. The person holding the phone visibly stiffens. The other officer leans over to look. His lips curl back in disgust. Is this some kind of sick ducking joke? The one with the phone snaps at Jake. Jake's features stay still, carved from stone. Do I look like I'm ducking joking? My stomach drops lower than I thought possible. Jake, please, I beg. This doesn't need to... Quiet. One of the officers cuts me off, his gaze unreadable as he looks me over. Tainted now. I can almost see him reshaping every thought he ever had about people like me in his head. I can feel the bile rising in my throat. This can't be happening. This can't seriously be happening. There's a click. The officer's face is grim as he reaches for his handcuffs. No, 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 I scream, my voice raw. I yank back, but another pair of hands are already pinning my wrists together. The cold metal bites into my skin before I can process it, and then the cuffs snap shut. "Ma'am, you're under arrest." His words blur together into noise as my own screams drown them out. I'm begging, half insane with panic now. But no one listens. Jake stands there, just silently watching as they lead me out. Every step feels harder, like the weight is pulling me under with each breath. I twist my head around, trying to make him look at me one last time. "Jake, you don't have to do this, please." His mouth twitches, but his eyes, they stay dead. "Take her away." The clang of the cell door snapped me out of my daze. A cold shiver ran down my spine as the heavy metal locked us in. I slumped against the wall, my mind racing but stuck on a loop of disbelief. Next to me, Martha stretched her legs on the narrow bunk, her silver hair catching the dim light. "Well, that was a scene and a half," she muttered, letting out a mirthless chuckle. "Mom, this isn't the time for jokes," I snapped, my voice strained. In the small, confined space, her gaze softened. "I'm here with you, Lisa. We're in this together," she said, sincerity stark in her tone. She reached out, brushing my tangled hair behind my ear. Before our arrest, I watched Jake's icy expression as the police arrived. His eyes, once full of warmth, were now frigid. No amount of pleading could thaw the anger consuming him. Now I clung to Martha's oddly comforting presence, even as the scandal consumed us. The media circus descended on Moss Creek like vultures. Every TV channel, newspaper, and website painted our faces with large, condemning headlines. "Animal cruelty, scandal rocks, Moss Creek," one particularly jarring headline screamed. I buried my face in my hands, the ink seeming to etch itself into my skin. Martha sighed beside me. Her usual spark dimmed. "People will say what they want. We've got to ride this storm." "Easy for you to say. Your life was already unconventional," I shot back. "True," she replied, a hint of that trademark defiance surfacing. "But this, we've got to accept it, Lisa. It's a shitstorm, but we'll find a way through." Jake wasted no time filing for divorce. The proceedings were ruthless. His lawyer painted me as a monster, a deviant who shattered not just his heart, but the very foundation of our life together. In court, I took the brunt of the judge's disgust. His gavel echoed like a death knell as he stripped away everything. The house, our shared assets. All of it went to Jake. I left the courtroom with nothing but the weight of my actions and the few personal belongings they allowed me to keep. Moving back to Martha's farm felt like stepping into a different world. Her home, once a sanctuary, now symbolized the epicenter of my fall. The judgment from the townsfolk was palpable, whispers following us wherever we went. "Lisa, we need to stick together," Martha said, handing me a cup of tea as we settled into our new reality. "We've got to face this head on." Martha and I faced community service orders. The irony wasn't lost on me as I spent countless hours at animal rescue organizations. I learned more about respect and dignity for animals than I ever imagined. Counseling sessions were grueling, forcing me to confront the full depth of my actions. I often left those meetings drained, a shell of the person I once was. Martha stood strong, her unconventional view of life giving her a strange resilience. "We'll work through this, Lisa. Every day is a step forward, even if it feels like we're crawling." Despite her words, the reality of our situation was harsh. The farm became our refuge, shielding us from the media, but also isolating us. The outside world felt like a distant memory, a place we could no longer belong to. Meanwhile, Jake threw himself into work. His pain turned into a drive, a relentless pursuit of a career and a life he could control. For him, every new connection, every social outing was a step towards rebuilding. I tried not to think about it too much, the life he was forging without me. Years passed slowly. Day by day, I worked on piecing my life back together. The isolation gave me time to reflect, and the rhythm of farm life offered a strange solace. I realized the need for profound change, a chance to redefine who I was, beyond the scandal that had defined me for so long. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Martha and I sat on the porch, a silence stretching comfortably between us. "You've grown, Lisa. This isn't the end for you," she said, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "I hope you're right," I whispered, the enormity of the journey still looming large. Years later, the final tether to my past arrived in the form of a letter. I poured my heart into it, every word a plea for forgiveness, an attempt to make sense of the irreversible damage I had caused. I didn't expect Jake to respond, but writing it felt like a necessary closure. When Jake finally read my letter, a tempest of emotions furled within him. For a long while, he stared at the paper, my words soaking into him. Ultimately, he decided to let it rest. Forgiveness might come, but the trust and love we once had were irreparably shattered. Moss Creek moved on, as communities often do. People found new scandals, new gossip. But for me and Martha, the past lingered, shaping our every day, reminding us of the fragile nature of respect and the arduous path to redemption. Ultimately, we clung together. Our bond, forged in scandal and shame, remained unbroken. My life was far from repaired, but I learned to find strength in the quiet moments, building a new existence from the fragments of my old one. And in that, I found a semblance of peace. Hey everyone! If you found this story gripping and want more jaw-dropping tales, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you're always in the loop. 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 You're always in